I'm slightly nervous about this one. I don't know why I have trepidation, but the encounter that follows shows I was right to be a little bit jumpy. David Icke was an early believer in some of the ideas, some of the strange and outlandish ideas that seem now to have become mainstream. Most old codgers like me have this memory of his appearance on a television program called Wogan. I think it was in the 1990s. And his appearance was truly extraordinary. He went from being an ex-professional footballer to claiming that he was literally the Son of God. At the time, it seemed like he was having a mental breakdown and his career was over. But he didn't simply disappear into obscurity. Instead, over time, his ideas suddenly took root, germinated in a new generation of people looking to make sense of a complicated world. People who went down these rabbit holes on the internet and they ended up at David Icke's feet. And he ended up being this kind of superstar, really, in the conspiracy world. When I came to meet him, it seemed a joke that a constituency of people could really believe that we were being controlled by this shadowy elite of kind of lizard humans. It also needs to be said, and I say this as somebody who spent 10 years photographing survivors of the Holocaust, that a lot of his ideas, his stories, his narratives are kind of reworkings of anti-Semitic tropes. So it goes without saying that I'm not endorsing anything David Icke stands for. This is a channel that's really about photography and about my photographic practice. In the run-up to the shoot, he seemed very open. We elected to shoot it at his home. So as we walked up to the front door in order to ring the bell, I noticed all these stains on the exterior of his house. Later I asked him, what was all that about? And he said that the local kids sort of pelted the building with eggs in order to provoke him. The interview with the writer was scheduled to start earlier. So when we arrived, we were ushered in and the interview was in full flow. We didn't want to interrupt, so Corinne, my assistant, and I sort of sat there on the sofa, unobtrusively sort of trying not to get in the way. An hour went past. Although it was interesting, I was starting to get frustrated because I was thinking, you feel nervous before a shoot, you want to get your pictures, you want to get something in the bag. My irritation started to increase because I noticed that the journalist, the writer, was starting to prod and goad Icke, annoy him, actually press his buttons. I mean, he was trying to get a good interview, but I was thinking, hang on a minute, I need to get my pictures and this is not creating an atmosphere conducive to, him giving me what I wanted. Suddenly, they were on their feet like two rutting stags in the middle of the living room, pointing and jabbing at each other, shouting, talking over each other. It was quite shocking. And I was sort of starting to panic. I unzipped my camera, which was in the bag at my feet in front of me, and I pulled out the camera and I started to record the scene because I thought, if I'm going to have to tell the picture editor that I didn't get any pictures, I'm going to show him why.
And I can show you papers from and report.
But that's no proof. You tell me that God doesn't exist. Prove to me that Satan doesn't exist. Prove to me that I'm not a hermaphrodite. Prove to me that I'm not erectile. You can't prove a negative. You have to prove a positive.
So you can see, right, a very small band of frequency.
I understand all that.
What exists beyond it?
You don't know and I don't know. But you don't know either.
How do you know?
Because that would make you superhuman. It would make you a god.
So it dismisses homeopathy because he has not a clue how reality works.
But why? But how do you know what exists outside the bandwidth? Nobody else does. You're the only person who claims to know this.
No.
Who else does?
No, loads of people throughout history have talked about what exists beyond the bandwidth.
They've talked about it. Shamans and gurus and people who have led religions and cults have talked about it. Yes. So what makes you any different from those people?
I put information together. I say
from those people.
Well, from endless different sources.
Conspiracy theorists.
Oh, you go.
texts. But
no.
then tell me why I'm wrong. That's why I'm here. I'm asking you, but you're not. You're just saying, read the book, read the book, read the book.
You see, it's like talking to a wall mate. To talk to you.
But I'm asking, tell me, David. I beg you, tell me.
Don't act like a prat.
I'm not. I'm just saying. Ask me.
I don't think I want to do this.
In the end, I had to act. I decided to sort of push the writer under the bus. So I interjected. I said, "Excuse me," and Icke was pissed off that the writer hadn't read all of his books. I mean, it was absurd because he's written about 20. And so I came down on Icke's side and I said, I think it's reasonable for the subject to expect the interlocutor, the interviewer, to have read their material. And the journalist said, "Oh, you think that, do you?" And before I could say anything, Icke basically said, "Go on, fuck off." And he grabbed the journalist and he threw the journalist out of the house. And then he turned to me and he said, "See, the photographers always understand me." It was a ruse, but it worked. It was my turn to get my job done and get some nice portraits, you know, make some interesting pictures to accompany the writer's article. I'd noticed some idiosyncratic painting on the wall. One particular piece of art caught my eye, and it was a depiction of this lion. He was happy for me to feature this painting. I think one of his books is something to do with the lion awakening. And so we got it out of the frame and I went out into the area just outside his flat and used the daylight there coming in through this big bay window to light him. And he was just holding it up, and it's sort of quite an interesting picture. I think it's probably my favorite from the series. We did some images in the flat and then he suggested going down to the seafront, and it seemed to be incredibly meaningful for him. So it was a good thing to do, and he went and he showed us around. There were lots of bright colours and there was a mural down there. So there were lots of things that worked well aesthetically. All in all, quite a comprehensive set of pictures. And to think, I could have very easily come away with nothing. On the way back on the ferry, I treated myself to a cup of tea, took a deep breath, and then phoned the writer to explain that it had all been a ruse in order to ensure that I got the pictures. He didn't return my calls.